What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about things that people get completely wrong about Canada. So today, I want to take a look at this Reddit discussion where somebody asked, what is something that people from outside the country of Canada always get hilariously wrong about Canada? So I thought this would just be the perfect topic to hear about because here in America, we don't understand anything about Canada, but we are very overconfident in a way, like we know everything. So we get stuff wrong about Canada all the time. And that is exactly what I want to hear about today. Stuff that people just get hilariously wrong about Canada for no good reason. Starting with its size. For example, I'm coming to Canada for a week and I want to see Vancouver and Toronto. You want to see Vancouver and Toronto. Is that silly? Is that just ridiculous? Toronto is on the east, and Vancouver is way on the west. I mean, that's a very big distance. I mean, I feel like, even though I don't know, like, the geography of Canada, like the back of my hand, Canada is sitting on top of America, like a hat. Let's get a map. Hold on here. Let's break this down for a second. Let's get a map. Okay, good. So, if we zoom out a little bit, Canada is on top of America, but yeah, I guess, man, it's very strange. It's very bizarre. I don't know how to explain this, but for most Americans, we can't really picture Canada. That must sound, I don't know, borderline insulting, ignorant. I understand, and we definitely deserve those criticisms, but for the longest time, like, when I pictured North America, I just kind of pictured the United States. I know that sounds terrible, and I don't know why our American brains are wired like this, but it's bad. So I really need to like have a map of Canada up to really know where stuff is. So Vancouver's on the left, Toronto on the right. So Canada is freaking massive, man. Like I've looked at it before, but like look at some of these. If we zoom in, look at like Manitoba or Ontario. You could fit Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, Indiana, and Ohio easily. You could fit all those states inside of Ontario. That's insane. Like, provinces are like mega states. So I really think that for most Americans, we just cannot picture Canada very well. And it's a lot thicker. That's a weird way to describe a country. It's not only taller than the United States, but it's a lot wider. Like if you're going from Prince Edward Island to British Columbia, like that is further than like Maine to California in the United States. So its size, that is absolutely correct, I think. One of my favorite statistics is if you're in St. John's, Newfoundland, you're geographically closer to Dublin, Ireland than you are to Manitoba? If you're in Newfoundland, you're closer to Ireland than Manitoba? Is that freaking true? Excuse my language. Is this freaking true? Here's Newfoundland. You like go over the ocean all the way to Ireland. Like that? Like there's Ireland to Newfoundland and then Newfoundland to Manitoba? No way. It's very similar distance. That's insane. That just blew my mind. Every post on Canada travel is like, I want to see Niagara Falls. How far is it from Vancouver? So Niagara Falls is like in southern Ontario, and we're talking about Vancouver, which is in British Columbia. Yeah, I mean, I like to think I would assume that's a very, very, very long way. But without looking at a map of Canada, I don't think I really appreciated how big provinces are. As silly as that sounds, they are massive. That it's always winter here. Yeah, so things people get completely wrong about Canada. I might have had this at number one, if you asked me. The size of Canada and the size of provinces is a good one. That might deserve to be number one for Americans, for sure. But this idea, I've talked about this before, where Americans think it's always winter in Canada. You might think I'm joking. You might think I'm exaggerating. This might sound like a childish idea, but it's not just children who think this in America. A lot of adults do too. Um, I want to open up ChatGPT. AI. Okay. I want to ask it about this. Why do Americans mostly think, not things, that it's always winter in Canada? Why is that? How did that happen? Does AI can it answer this for me? This is the purpose of AI now, to answer my random questions about Canada. The idea it's always winter in Canada is a stereotype shaped by a couple of things. The geography, Canada does go very far north, which contributes to the idea that it's the land of snow and ice. The Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut are indeed snowy and cold most of the year. But they're not where most Canadians live. That's good. That explains. So there are places in Canada, like that are very far north, that do exist, that are Canadian, like places, that are an accurate description of what we think, like, oh, permanently winter and cold and desolate. Those places exist. It's just that's not where Canadians live, is the thing. Pop culture is to blame for this stereotype. Movies, TV shows, and media often show Canada as snowy, full of wilderness. They're usually around the winter holidays, and it creates a lasting impression. Winter sports like hockey, which are central to Canadian culture, reinforce this image of ice, cold, and snow. Yeah, this is like the perfect way of explaining what's inside my American brain. Why I thought Canada was like snowy and cold all the time growing up. Population centers close to the US. Most Canadians live close to the United States border. Why would that perpetuate that stereotype? Jokes. The always winter idea has become a joke and a stereotype about Canadians. Okay. In reality, Canadians experience all four seasons. Summer can get warm, especially in cities like Toronto and Vancouver. There you go. Yeah, because I just wanted to go into more detail about that because that is such a misconception for Americans. Absolutely. I'm currently in Scotland. Someone asked me if I wasn't looking forward to going back home to the snow. I had to let them know it's warmer at home in Canada than it is in Scotland. It's not just the United States that thinks this, apparently. This is just a stereotype Canada has. I don't know if Canadians even think about this all that much. I don't know why you would. If you're living in Canada, it probably sounds a little silly. Unless you're like really far north, then you're like, yeah, it's freaking cold here. This is true. I worked at a gas station in southwestern Ontario. One summer, a couple from the United States came in and asked where the best skiing is. It was in August. Uh, yeah, literally August. Well, now it's October, late October. Is it starting to get cold in Canada? It's not like there's snow, right? In Canada? Not yet, right? No. Right? No. Can I look up some weather? like Manitoba weather? 35 degrees. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. 35 degrees. Well, what's that? 2 degrees Celsius, 35 Fahrenheit. It's freaking cold in Manitoba. What the heck? I'm sorry, this is just perpetuating the stereotype even further. It's like 35 Fahrenheit. Like, that's not that far off from like snow forming. You can freeze at like 0 Celsius, right? So that's right now. Oh my god, I was literally thinking like it can't be that cold already in Canada. I mean, that's Manitoba. I know like there's more southern areas of Canada, but I can't like it's already really cold in parts of Canada. Okay. It's always cold in Canada. I am just that stereotype is not even a stereotype, it's just true. Now I believe it. Okay. What are things that people get completely wrong about Canada that being polite and being nice are the same thing? So this is another stereotype Canadians have. It's a good one, I think. Canadians are known for being polite, respectful, kind, saying sorry, or sorry. Um, I don't know how like if Canadians think that's annoying. I don't know if it's like as true as the stereotype claims it to actually be. I think it is, and it's not. That's a good thing. That's a great thing. It says a wonderful thing about Canadian culture if you're known for being polite. But they're pointing out that just because Canadians are polite doesn't mean you're nice. What does that mean? Um, it means you can be respectful and courteous of others, but that doesn't mean you're a pushover. And it doesn't mean, yeah. I think is that what we're saying here? Like, can anyone explain this in a better way? It's similar to Japan. I thought Japanese people were supposed to be polite, but they were cold and unfriendly. Oh, there's a difference. For Japanese people, in this example, you can be polite. That doesn't mean you're like the friendliest person, like you just want to chat and become friends, but you can still be courteous. Okay, okay, yeah, interesting stuff actually, and definitely, definitely stuff that Americans get wrong about Canada. That's for sure. Because I bet you, like every American thinks every Canadian is just this super nice, bubbly, friendly, like person wearing red plaid, ready to offer you a warm spoon of maple syrup. Um, but it's more that Canadians come in all varieties of personalities, but as a culture, you have an expectation of respect for one another. Whereas here in America, I definitely think we are a little more selfish, not so community oriented. America has a culture of you need to succeed, you need to win, you do what you need to do to hustle and come out on top, which doesn't make for much of a community sensibility. Yeah. That was some more things people get wrong about Canada. I once boarded a rail in Winnipeg. I met an American who had gone on in Toronto and was traveling to Vancouver. Oh, he is. This is a poor American trying to actually go from Toronto to Vancouver, who told me he had no idea the American prairies continued in Canada. The American prairies? How can those be in Canada? That's Canada. He has seen the Via Rail ads featuring the Rocky Mountains and figured it'd be something like that. He was not impressed with the bleak 3-day ride to Jasper. What is this trying to say? That, for one thing, American prairies continue. What does this mean? He thought the American prairies continued into Canada? Is there prairie-like geography in parts of Canada? I think so. I don't know why he would refer to it as American prairies. That's a bit disrespectful. this rail. So he thought it was all going to be just this beautiful trip through Canada from east to west. And there's a bleak 3-day ride to Jasper. That's unfortunate. Many North Americans don't understand the physical size of Canada. Not just North Americans, but not just non-North Americans, but Americans as well. Who, we are in North America and we're terrible at geography. I will go ahead and admit that. I met a Swiss gal in Mexico. I was chit-chatting and drinking. She asked me about Montreal and if I'd ever go there for a meal. I told her I live in British Columbia. She asked me how long the drive would be. I said about 5 days. 5 days from Montreal to British Columbia? Is that true? 5 days to drive across Canada? I mean, the United States is big. And I often in my mind just thought, oh, Canada is about as wide as the United States. But looking at the map, you can clearly see that it's, I don't know, substantially wider, actually. If you're talking about the Yukon all the way to Newfoundland and Labrador, it's not just a little wider. It's like 40% wider, 50. Jeez, it blows my, every time I open a map of Canada, I'm like mind blown. Okay. Europeans think we are a dog-eat-dog capitalist hellhole like the United States? Okay, jeez. Tell me what you really think. Americans think we're a taxed-to-death socialist hellhole like Europe. So Canada's just totally misunderstood. Things people get wrong about Canada, that we have a lackluster military. It's not financed that well, but if you ask soldiers from other nations who've worked with the Canadian military, they'll say we have some of the best trained soldiers in the world. I've learned a little bit about Canadian military, some videos I've seen, and it is extremely impressive, extremely underrated. I know Canada was known, especially during the World Wars, as being terrifying. Yeah, so I think this is actually very true. People don't understand the Canadian military and how good it is. People misunderstand that it is the land of ice and snow. We think it's the land of ice and snow. I have lost count how many friends I've taken across the border to southern Ontario only to have them amazed that the trees and leaves are not frozen, basically. Exactly. We talked about that. It's a boat, not a boot. At least tease us correctly. Right. This is another stereotype. This is true, though. Like, most Americans think Canadians say a boot. What are you talking about? It's more like a boat. Is that pretty good? Is that accurate? A boat? Sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I just go overboard. I feel like the American in me comes out, and I'm like, a boat. Why am I becoming British? What are you talking about? All right, at the risk of that going on any longer, that's a good place to stop. This was very fun for me, actually, and super relatable. There's just a lot of stuff that Americans get wrong about Canada. I know, because I'm one of them. Now, I've gotten to learn more about Canada through YouTube and the internet, which is great, but I can totally vouch for so many of these things personally that really confused me about Canada, and I know confuse most Americans. So yeah, this is kind of funny for me to go over, kind of enlightening as well. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on stuff that people get wrong about Canada. That'd be fun to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and learning about Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.